Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Forest Bluff Real Estate Team serves Illinois, Wisconsin, Lake Forest, and Lake Bluff. John Josephitis, Laura Lee Van Fleet, and of course Michelle Parnell. Get a free market analysis now at forestbluffrealestate.com. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Havey Communications has been helping first responders arrive safely since 1983. It's owned by Lake Forest's own Mike Havey. Check them out at haveycommunications.com. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters: Costa, Lance, Otto, RDM, John C., and Helen. Shout out to the Lake Forest Breakfast Group, Broad Stop and Captain Mike's in Kenosha, the Greentown Tavern, and the Frolic Lounge in Waukegan.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Don't call me sir. I work for a living. Joe Severino, the pride of Cicero, Illinois. Welcome to the Lake Forest Podcast.
Thank you, sir. Great to be here again. Great job making everybody aware of what's happening out here. Did you get a chance to read that?
I read it. And what is an RINO?
That's a, for me, a RINO it's not a moderate Republican. It's a corrupt or a hoping to profiteer Republican is exactly what it is. So when I use that term, it kind of modernly, that's what it is. I am a moderate. I have more conservative views, but I'm very moderate, relatable to the public. So I don't think there's been a more moderate, authentically moderate Republican that's defended our values in the past.
Now, Joe, for the new people that just tripped over this podcast and fell in, I don't have my partners Joe Weiss or Rick Lesser on today. They're taking a couple weeks off, and they're my Republican experts. And your name came up, and there was some cringing going on. And I'm like, what's the matter with my boy Joe? I had him on a couple of times. I don't have any problems with him. Good guy from Cicero. And then they were saying Joe Severino, RINO, and they're making light. I guess that's what that means. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you ran for Congress up against Schneider,
correct?
Right? And I mean, that's rough. They redid the districts. Dold was there for a while, and they redid it. And it looks like there's more Democrats in there. Can you give everybody a background of you? Because, like I said, new people come on the show, and your name's gone back and forth. You haven't been on in a while. And as far as I know, you're the quote-unquote Republican guy for the district.
That's correct. And I've been speaking out. It's very telling that the Republican establishment doesn't like me. The political Republican leaders don't like me, but the people really like me. They love my message, and I hear it literally every single day. A lot of them don't want to be out in the public saying this because it's such an adversarial climate to those that respond in any capacity politically. However, the people love what I'm doing, and I'm bringing them along for the ride. I'm not doing this cloaked and veiled behind doors. Disinfectant, as they say, is the best remedy. And I'm bringing these people and making them accountable to the public rather than, destroying communities behind the scenes and then, negating liability and responsibility for why we're in the states and the mess it's in. So I'm just making people aware. So the people that have interest are the ones that are, talking negatively about me. I'm here fighting for, the communities and people, and insulating rights, and making our streets safer. So, why is that a bad message? Why would nobody want to get behind that message?
Well, I think you're an acquired taste like me. If everybody likes you, there's something's wrong with you, because that means you don't make a stand. You have to piss somebody off. And we had Keith Brin on. Seemed like an okay guy, chairman of the Republican, whatever. And even having him on and studying what's been going on, it seems like a very complicated system to figure out how it works, number one. And then number two, we're in a democratic state where you have all these people that are Democrats that hold state jobs. They are very passionate about promoting their side of things to keep their jobs. So
status quo.
Yeah, right. So it's like you're pushing a pea up a hill with your nose, Joe.
Yeah.
How can we correct this? Because you're going up against Schneider, and when you were running against him, I talked smack on Schneider. I saw him at the Lake Forest Day Parade, and he said he's going to come on, and maybe I'll reassess my take on him. But he seems to be playing a smart role where he's not stepping in any dog poo. He's just going about his way, staying out, keeping the status quo going, like you say. But what are you going to do differently to take him over? Because it's tough. He's established. He's in there. You got to have some issues that got to contradict what he's doing in order for soccer moms. Well, soccer moms like you. You're good looking, Joe, especially when you give the pipes out. So I mean,
that was for the men that are talking smack behind the scenes, not the women.
Well,
I want them to see what's going on here.
I'm going to put a picture up, Joe. Don't worry. But how do you're going against the established guy? You're going against this Republican Party who, I don't know, when I hear the term Republican or when I hear the term Democrat, to me, I think of outliers. And I think of outliers that are in Facebook chats, putting up Biden sucks or Trump sucks. And
right.
I just get turned off. And I just want to know what the issues are.
Well, I agree with you. First of all, I agree with you. And I've taken a position to actually engage with constituents online. And even though sometimes they'll say, hey, if they lose in the battle or the debate, it's always, don't you have better things to do? You're running for Congress. The reality is I'm bringing them also into the spotlight and highlighting exactly, what the failures are currently in running. People want to disparage candidates that are working hard, not just me, but candidates that are working hard out there on behalf of somebody else or something greater than themselves, devoting time away from their family, their resources, et cetera, that immense public scrutiny. And then some individual that just doesn't, see it the way you do, wants to disparage you and turn other people off to what your vision might be. Maybe they've not accomplished anything in their life. I'm accomplished. I've done a lot, been very successful in many arenas. As you said, grew up in Cicero, literally fought every day of my life. And it's tough to sit around a bunch of weak men in politics, posturing as if they're actually going to get out there and fight, and see them sit down and actually take an advantage and disparage people. So emotionally and passionately, that's tough for me to witness.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in that circle. So I chose, when I first decided to get out here and run for Congress, I thought, you know what, they need a fighter. And I'm that guy. I can bring the biography of business, philanthropy, et cetera, and actually affect change. And I'll do it for the right purpose. I'm not going to accept the salary. I'm just going to get out there and fight for these people.
And literally fight. You were golden Gloves guy, weren't
A
you?
Golden Gloves fighter. Yeah, 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 yeah. But really on the street is probably where I had more fights. But the reality, and they don't like hearing that. They said
Yeah.
talk less about that. Yeah, I'm sure the mental image of it is kind of tough for you. If you're trying to pull a fast one on me, the image of me fighting isn't what you want to see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the reality is this: after that kind of an upbringing, being humbled, uh, uh, being successful, I went to law school. After law school, I still felt like I haven't kind of fully actualized, and I wanted to do more in my life. So then I went to Harvard Business School, was celebrated as a leader. See my trophy up there, President's Award out of 177 global leaders. So I bring a unique biography to the district that resonates with all demographics, constituents, you name it, from the street to the boardroom, as I say. And then not to get my own party support, it's almost offending when I see people that are being aggrieved to the degree they are in the name of politics or cashing a check. And so they look at me like, oh, he's not one of us. Well, I don't want to be one of them. I'm like Groucho Marx. I don't want to be a part of a crowd that would have me. I want to get out there and actually do the right thing and build a constituency where everybody realizes that we're here to fight for them going forward. And that's my promise, and that's what I'm going to do.
What does Joe Severino underperform mean? I'm going to put a link
Yeah,
here to
yeah.
the podcast that we did because you're Republican
What
in
a joke.
Illinois. Like, who's going to? I was kind of
Well, that
questioning
shows
that
how
when I.
incompetent Keith Brin is. I have a huge issue with Keith Brin. First of
Oh,
all, first
oh,
of all, as a
whoa.
leader, first of all, as a leader, you can disagree, but he's absolutely incompetent, and I'll tell you why. And this is nothing I haven't said to him or said publicly. So I
Yeah.
don't say one thing behind the scenes and another.
Okay.
But here's the reality: when he deliberately, as you see, there's going to be an article today by the Illinois Republicans stating and making the public aware that he actually sent out text messages telling Republican leaders not to support me or my events. Now, this is after Dick Uhline already got behind my race and funded PACs in order to get me elected. I went out there and shook thousands of hands. There hasn't been a better candidate. People have screamed, this is the best candidate we've ever had in the 10th. And then they don't get behind me. There's something wrong. So Keith Brin was kind of like like a, first of all, he doesn't even describe himself. He's a self-professed independent, which I don't have any issue with. I kind of feel a little bit of it. I'm more of an independent myself. I try to run as an independent, which is tough in Illinois, because I have the values of a conservative, but the heart of the community. And that's what we need right now, somebody that can look through both lenses and serve both sides. That's what leaders do. Well, I decided to have a big event at the Genessee Theater. I brought leaders from all over the Chicagoland area to get together and show them how we do think more alike. Well, Brad Schneider sent out emails. I think it was I don't want to mention her. I heard it was Mary Cunningham.
Okay.
They had sent out emails to all the civic leaders, mano a mano, NAACP, League of Women Voters, etc. Do not support his event in any capacity. So the Democrats were working very diligently not to support the event. They didn't want to be a part of betterment where our district is suffering the most. And then I found out that Keith Brin did the exact same thing. So the Irvin Bourne campaign in 30, not even 30 days before the election, not during the primary, during the right before the general election, I had it on October 10th in the 10th district, 10-10 in the 10th. Well, we brought the leader of Black Lives Matter, P. Ray, if you know who she is, Conservative Talk Radio, a bunch of these prolific people in politics that really care for the community. Doesn't matter what side they're on. And Keith Brin sent out messages that not to go to the event. He was telling Republicans and leaders not to go to the event and not to support me. So that's what caused our relationship to kind of crumble. That's number one. Number two, the issue with him is, so he was brought in. He was, there was a coup in Lake County. So what they did was they didn't like Mark Shaw anymore, which I don't disagree. He had to leave. but Keith Brin wasn't the right individual to take it over. So what they did was Matt DeRay of Core Strategies was fired from the board by Mark Shaw. In retaliation, he decided with the owner of Core and Keith Brin and two others that they were going to take over the board. And that's essentially what they did. So they did it with a financial lens that they were going to be able to profit in some capacity by taking it over. And now they have Core literally managing our board. Keith Brin has been
hold on,
paying
Joe, what is CORE, COR? What is that?
Core. It's a political consultant strategy group.
Okay. And
So they went out on the
what do they do? They figure out what what the issues are? Like, what is a political strategy?
Here's what they do very well. They don't get people elected.
Okay.
And then my issue is this. I want to follow the winners, not the losers. So when you have individuals out there that are posturing to be our leaders that can't win, and then we're out there working hard, it gets very frustrating to see the direction we're headed in because, there are so many people, and it's not just Joe Severino, it's Joe Lynn that ran in Highland Park, Justin in Round Lake. We had great candidates out there that tried, connected with the community, and they didn't get the support they need. And Keith Brin, literally, with the school board races, he told individuals not to use social media while they're out there. And if you notice on your podcast, he said, "Oh, Joe's big on social media." Well, it's a great. Who wouldn't be if they're running, for office?
The price is
so
right.
It's like, yeah, free media. And if you have a following, it's almost contrary or antithetical to what you want to do because, that's how you get elected and get people to know who you are. Well, he told school board members not to use social media, and post-COVID, nobody's opening their doors. So he literally rendered their mission moot. And so I brought that up, and his response to all this was, "Oh, Joe doesn't like me because I'm Jewish." I said, "That's a very Democrat thing to say." So it's like, and to give you an example, there was an event, the Jewish Coalition of the North Shore, where probably, Pete, it was my best talk ever in front of a adversarial crowd. And they were literally saying amen. I talked about AR-15s not being banned. Yeah, in Highland Park, if you want them, but Texas might not feel that way. It was probably the best talk I've ever given in my life. Resonated the best. Brad Schneider was just deflated. It's the only time he would face me, and his rabbi ensured that we rotated on stage rather than face off against one another. And then as I was leaving, people were hugging me and taking my lawn signs that ordinarily they wouldn't accept a Republican, but they did me. And Keith Brin wasn't there to support me. Instead, he said I was anti-Semitic, just like he said about a conservative candidate, Darren Bailey. So we need leaders. We want the leaders to believe in us the most. We need coaches that believe more than we believe in a mission. That's how you get motivated. And when they talk about donor fatigue, voter fatigue, when you have weak and uninspiring leaders, you're not going to bring people to the team. So I'm trying to do it on a collateral basis, collecting people together and getting them to understand if we work with authentic people and candidates and leaders, we can turn the state around. And that's my mission.
Joe, even Keith Brin said, I asked him the question, how many people out there, the guy in the street, know what the hell is going on? Because you're saying stuff, he's saying stuff, and he said 1 out of 10. So if you got 10% of the people that know what's going on and you just hear this noise going back and forth, it's, there's, again, I'll say it, there's two reasons why people don't buy. They don't understand the offer and they're not sufficiently disturbed. So unless something politically is going to affect them, and they hear a noise, they're confused, they're just going to go to the other party. How do we bust through that? Like, what issues do you think can cross the lines where you can get some moderates to vote for you?
I'll give you an example. I'm a pro-life candidate. And I go out, first of all, I'm pro-life. I have truly conservative values. And faith is huge in my household and with me personally. I think some of the strongest, most prolific people in life have some kind of faith. And I believe people should believe in something. They should believe in community. and care for things beyond themselves. And that's exactly why I feel a compulsion and inspired to run, number one. And this is no, easy task, in that the success of this is bleak to say the least. So for me, it's more of a mission to wake people up, so in the future they realize that the offer is more attractive than what's accepted. And you're right, being a business leader for 25 years, I understand how to sell. However, people understand there's better products out there, but when you have your actual sales reps preventing you from getting the product out there, there's an issue. And that's why we're facing what we are today.
Now, who's this Mary something or other that's going to come up to challenge you? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Mary.
Mary's. The Republicans are putting somebody out named Mary to challenge you for the Republican. No, doesn't ring a bell.
I don't know a Mary. I know there's a couple of them. So supposedly the story is this.
Okay.
They were going to get a guy, Jim Karras.
Okay.
From Lake Forest. He was supposed to be the guy that they were going to posture up to come and get Joe Severino.
Yeah.
But then, he came to a Lake County board meeting and he didn't hit a home run, to say the least. So everybody was like deflated when they met him. So they started scrambling, thinking and it was a Mark Shaw pick, by the way.
Okay.
So then they started thinking about, okay, who else can we get? Well, I found out from a trusted source they're going to try to get this Karras, who literally sits on the board of Red Cross in Illinois. The Red Cross board in Illinois redacted and removed all the description of child porn, which literally mirrors exactly what's going on in our schools today. This guy sits on the board. I said, it's a perfect candidate for me to showcase my skill set and my mission versus his. I'm fighting against all this nonsense with kids, educational declines, porn, this pedophilia mission or maps, minor attracted, disguising pedophiles. So bring them forward. But now that kind of fell to the side. So essentially what they were doing is trying to get primary challengers for me. So then at the last minute, in secret, they were going to get a Mark Kirk or a Bob Dold. I said, Mark Kirk is going to come out of the woodwork to primary me, a Chinese lobbyist? Love it. Bring him on. Well, they said, but I thought it was actually absurd that they would even think such a. The reality is, a day later, he does a 7-minute, like everything but a campaign announcement on like CBS News. When I had questions about Schneider and a FOIA from the Deerfield police relating to him hiring a prostitute, I couldn't even get somebody to report it. But here, Mark Kirk walks on for 7 minutes. There's just an extreme bias. So they don't want a voice like me out there because I'm going to take it right to them. I'm not shy or apologetic. I think that our state is literally in a shambles. And as we sit here with our own personal concerns, Pete, we have the National Committee Chair, Richard Porter, senior partner of Kirkland Ellis, who's there to help propel me forth, totally ignored me in my race. Demetra DeMonte in Lake Forest totally ignored me in my race. How is this concerted effort to stymie the voice of somebody that resonates so well with the public being ignored? Well, it's because I'm going to trample on all the corruption and the profiteering and this ringing a register with bad candidates so they can make money rather than worrying about the outcome. So they don't want me around. And then that voice kind of echoes maybe to some like your buddies, the constituency that, oh, Severino or whatever they could say against me to make me less appealing to the public. But it's going to be a tough task because
the public doesn't know what RINO means. I didn't know what it meant. So you're speaking to the 10%. So, and I think what's got to happen is we got to bring all you guys together and just have a fist fight and duke it out and,
I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's quick and easy,
yeah.
But what needs to happen is we need to inspire dialogue with Brad Schneider. You said, oh, he never stepped in anything. Well, it's very easy for him not to step in anything when he's being insulated from Republicans and Democrats. So here he was literally accused of being with a prostitute while his wife was out of town. I had to go to his town hall meeting and disrupt it with the FOIA. The police threw me out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
You got
I
a
did
copy of
that.
that
And then
FOIA?
I do.
You mind if I use
Secondly,
it?
oh,
All
absolutely.
right.
It's yours. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, let's talk about how his office manager took $80,000 of our taxpayer dollars from his constituent account, used it to buy a Ford Taurus, disguised it as an FBI vehicle with the lights and everything, bought guns and ammunition, was steps from the president in Washington, literally eluded the police, but nobody talks about it. So Richard Porter can get a black Democrat dies, so he gets 3 pages in Real Clear Politics to discuss, how we need to reach across the aisle. But here you can take out a congressman that's been absolutely corrupt for a long time, and then you have no media, he told me. That's what we're fighting here in Illinois. So if we don't get good, authentic people that can actually trailblaze out there, just consider moving because unless you're comfortable with this, there's nothing else we can do.
All right. So you have our Lake Forest podcast listeners, watchers, and they heard, what Keith Brin said and Joe Weiss and Rick Lesser, and then you come on and it's going back and forth. Quite simply, the soccer moms want to know, besides you're good looking, why are they going to vote for you? Why is there somebody in between that's not what doesn't want to listen to the outliers? They want to know specifically why should they vote for you rather than the Democrat Schneider?
For change. I'm
Change from
authentically
what to
going.
what?
Okay, so here's the thing. So I have, if they want to care about something before themselves, we have an entire district that's suffering. So I came up with a plan called the New North Shore, where we're going to take resources from the southern end of the district, where it's wealthier. We have a geographical, pretty small wealth divide right here. And we can inspire and create investing incentives to build up the North Shore, Zion, North Chicago, Waukegan, closer to the border, beautiful water that we have there. Anywhere else on earth, this would be prime, pristine property. They're putting a casino there. So they're pilfering the pocket of the constituent rather than actually building the community. My proposal is rather than the gentrification process where you wait for the aggrieved and the struggling to move and then profit and bring the investment in, I'm saying bring them along for the ride. Create a better tax base, invest better in the community, the schools, the teaching, fight against the educational deficits, bring people together more. And that's what I could do. I came from a mother that used to cry to the after a divorce to keep our lights on. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be out there. So I have a passion to want to fight on behalf of people, and I'm going to do it authentically.
All right.
Taxes, all the talking points of Republican, of course, I'm going to fight for that.
Well, and two, you're authentic. Like people call me Rawthentic. It's to me when I see a Republican, like an old school Republican, I call them blowhards. Like I call my partners blowhards because they like to hear themselves speak and go over the same points, regurgitate what has just been said versus bringing up something new. Now they're out there, so they're on their little vacation right now. They're going to be so pissed, but
I'd love to have them here. I want that.
No, we should get everybody together and like Brin on and Joe and Rick, and we should debate this, and I'll have the mute button ready.
No, we should do it. You should host it at the Gorton Center.
Oh,
and then we'll get people, grassroots will get people from all over Illinois to get over here.
So we could do like a real live debate. Yeah.
Yes. And that's where they made the mistake. When I call the establishment out, what the establishment is doing right now in our party is they're hijacking every grassroots figure. Tom DeVore, Kathy Salvi. You see Kathy Salvi was grassroots, but now she's on the establishment as a finance chair. Tom DeVore is a lab dog now for Richard Porter, beating the establishment drum. The establishment is not, they're no different than the Democrats. They're there to insulate the incumbency of Democrats, essentially. So what I'm doing is calling them all out and showing there's a difference between Republicans, establishment like RINOs, and then Democrats. I align with Democrats in a lot of issues and in a lot of ways. The only reason we depart moderately is because I'm running as a Republican. And if you have an R in front of your name, it's automatically taboo. Well,
Yeah.
my proposal is, I'm a kind of leader that can draw a line in the sand, say, stand behind me. I'm going to make a promise and I'll keep it. Where a lot of these other Republicans or let's say politicians want to bend their knee to the will of every voter. You can't do that. You have to have a mission and bring it forward.
No, I agree. I agree with that. Like I said, if everybody likes you, something's wrong. So, okay, let's go over all the stuff that's probably not going to happen because there's downside to whoever these people get brought up with the quote unquote establishment.
Oh, and let me ask you, Pete,
Yeah.
Is Mary not Rottering? Because I heard she might get in the race, or Nancy Rottering. What's her name?
I don't. I'm the guy in the street, Joe. That's why I hear these things. That's why we got to bring everybody together. Like I said, only 10% know what the hell we're talking about, and
Yeah,
maybe the only thing that people will share is a raunchy Facebook post from Dan Rogers or whatever.
Oh, and what about that? The R slur, the new minority slur, and this guy is supposed to be our leader, and he says the word in front on social media. If you don't have and he's a Keith Brin crony. They've been buddies for a long time.
Yeah,
And Keith Brin, by the way, his biography is this real fast.
yeah,
He holds himself out to be this like political sophisticant. The reality is they brought him in. He was elected as the Lake County clerk. He was supposed to have one job, petition for $2 million to digitize all the court records, completely failed. They didn't reelect him with core strategies, by the way. They brought in a Democrat who did it
yeah.
expeditiously. And then when he was home on the couch, sulking, finally, the Atsavis, I think the wife, wound up getting him a job with the Rauner campaign. And then he to do the same thing, and he failed there too. And now they drag him out to, come and lead, people that want change. Doesn't work that way. The one thing that we have to veer away from now is this textbook leadership. You cannot create a leader that's not experiential. They have to have some kind of skin in the game in whatever they're leading. And that's why I'm adverse to this mission. It was just to profit. We have him on the board that's tied to core strategies. We have the Matt DeRay, who's a second chair on core strategies. We have Margie Kubalanza, the chair of Fox Grant,
Yeah.
who actually lives in Wisconsin. And she didn't even vote in the last 3 general elections. Didn't vote for me. I guess she followed Keith's advice. But the reality is her husband's in Wisconsin voting for 10 years out of Wisconsin. What is going? And this is the crew that's going to push us forward.
Joe, you know what's scary is you bring up the clerk. I got into Vince Vega's face on social media because they made our third ward people have to go vote in Vernon Hills at the last election. I blew him a bunch of crap. He heard me and said, "Hey man, let me explain." I had him on the show, and he said, "Hey, I had 90 days to book 100 places and was straight up, and I respect that." Holly Kim, the treasurer, okay, she came on very likable, straightforward, made a couple screw ups, owned it. And those are two people that, if I was just going to play the D or the R, I like those people. Right.
Sure.
And it's making me, kind of question things. It's better to be authentic than to be established. So that's why I think you got a shot here.
Sure.
But we got to have more people like that to speak plainly to people. Because again, 10% know what's going on. Now, are you still with Uhline? I've tried to reach out to Dick a couple times to have him come on, and a lot of people are blowing me smack that, oh my God, that'll be horrible in this. And the more I hear that, the more I want him. Is he still in your corner, or is he going to go with whoever Keith Brin puts up?
Well, here's what I have to say. We're not going to discuss, where our money's coming from,
Yeah.
but we'll leave that for a surprise. But I have a feeling like one of the greatest and most prolific quotes that I think is very analogous to politics is, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face by Mike Tyson of all people. And I love that.
Yeah.
So the reality is this right now, they're pushing, and this goes to where, this donor and voter fatigue comes from. We have Mary Cole, who the establishment is pushing right now for state's attorney. So Mary Cole in 2016 and 2022 voted for, she's a Democrat. She voted for Democrats. So if you voted for a Democrat in 2022, first of all, she didn't vote for me. She didn't vote for anybody that was running a big race, school boards, et cetera. But you also co-signed, all the atrocities that are occurring in our community. Well, when I spoke to her campaign manager the other day, he said, Joe, she wants to fight against the criminals. I said, she voted for the criminals in 2022. And then he said, no, she's not political, though. I said, well, she's on she's a trustee in Lake Bluff. Well, it's not really a political position. And then I went further to say, listen, they just voted 8-0 against Uhline and tried to ridicule the man throughout the nation, that he lost, that he can no longer use gas-powered leaf blowers. I said, she was on that board. It was 8-0. Might as well be AOC over there voting against him, our prolific donor. And now they're, and then they whack him. No, she doesn't deserve to be in the seat. We want authentic people, and I'm going to call them out if they're not a Republican. And I'll tell you this, I will fight better and harder than anyone. And if I don't win my race, I spoke to Darren Bailey the other day for about 40 minutes, and Cindy too, who are friends. And I said, our wins can be incremental. You don't have to win the seat to affect change. You can bring light. You can bring people together. You can prove who we are as a party, but you don't necessarily have to win. You could do it incrementally. And then maybe as the years go on, we can start affecting change. So my want is for change.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this.
DeSantis and Trump. Why can't DeSantis? He seems like a straight up guy. Seal, read his book, like where he's coming from, likes what he did with Florida, and then he can't come close to Trump. What's the deal there, man?
So same thing. He's an establishment, number one. As a matter of fact, on his rollout, that bumbled rollout, Richard Porter, who's supposed to be in Illinois supporting us, was with no impropriety of bias, was in Florida helping him fundraise and roll out his campaign. That's a horrible look for a leader, number one. Picking sides, just like Keith Brin is sitting in these, oddly sucking on cigars, staring at Colin Corbett. Very weird. But the long and short of it is they're over there pushing these primary opponents that they can profit off rather than the will of the people, like they did with Urban. Now they're doing it again with DeSantis. DeSantis was going to be a failed gubernatorial candidate. Not until he was losing to a radical who post-election was found drug-induced coma. They had to call the police in a hotel room because he's just a frail individual. Long and short of it is DeSantis was losing against him until Trump intervened and told everybody to get behind him and support him. And then he got elected, which was great. So rather than being loyal and appreciative and keeping the mission going forward, they decide, the establishment, the Bushes, Cheneys, and everybody establishment, to get behind DeSantis to take Trump off the general ticket. And it didn't work because they're working antithetically toward what the will of the people are. And that's where the mishap is. They're not going to make money off Trump. Trump's not going to put any money in Illinois. He's going to find the 5 battleground states, fight like heck there, lawyers, attorneys, judges, election judges, poll watchers, ensure that there's no cheating going on. And that's what he's, and that's why they don't want Trump, because there's no way to profit off him.
Yeah. You talk about voter fatigue. I don't think it's fatigue. It's, like I said, for the 10%, maybe it's fatigue. Everybody else doesn't get it. It's almost like, why waste your time? Like you said, Trump's not even going to waste his time in Illinois. You're going to go up and do this. I give credit to you guys for, wanting to do it, but what can you accomplish? Like how did Dold win? I mean, I know the Dold family, good,
Mhm.
good people. What they redistrict? Why didn't he win again? Like, what happened?
Inauthentic,
Okay.
inauthentic. He's supposed to be fighting for Republican values, and he didn't. He wasn't a Second Amendment guy. He was, and everybody. I only met Bob Dold once. I reached out to him when I was in the primary and the nominee. He never got back to me. He's very gracious with a lot of other candidates, but magically, didn't like Joe Severino, along with Mark Kirk and the rest of them.
You got issues,
But
Joe.
but the reality is that when he made that pact, with Schneider, we're going to reach into across the aisle, and that going against Trump because of McCain and all that. You know what? People don't want you reaching across the aisle. They want you reaching into the community. And he's not a community guy, very awkward guy, tough even to speak to, very nice guy when I met him, but nobody, it's like a George Bush wannabe as far as that's the way I view him. And there's no differentiating between him and Brad Schneider. Why be motivated? Why go out and vote for Bob Dold? He's literally no different. If you put a photo up of both of them side by side, you could barely tell, that they're separate individuals. And he spent almost $10 million, and that's the problem we're in, just to lose. So that's the problem we're having here.
Yeah.
There's once they lost that race, they decided, you know what, we just can't win. They don't have the boots on the ground. They don't have the civic support. Now they're all saying, oh, ballot harvesting. Guess what? I spoke to the new Trier township committee person. She's like the chair there.
Yeah.
Uh, and I said, hey, what's going on? When can I come and speak? That little sliver of Cook County. And she said, well, we're thinking about October. I sent her a snapshot. I looked at what the 10th, New Trier 10th District Dems were doing. There was like 40 of them, very like kind of polished people, look sharp, out there having coffee together, already working. So they're already sitting on their hands while the Democrats are out there. And just to let you know, please keep this in this podcast when you edit. The
Yeah.
reality is this. The reality is this. My race, every single one of my precincts was undervoted, Pete. So that means that the bottom ballot or second, the back of the ballot got more votes than I did as third on the ballot. That's automatically it gives the illusion of cheating. Objectively, that's cheating. That's how they don't give the opponent more votes. They take votes away because you can't find them. So then we did a forensic analysis. A statistician, mathematician from Northwestern did a forensic analysis for us. The mail-in votings, we did mail-ins, walk-ins, same-day voting. We broke it down, every single vote in the 10th district, and we found that 99% of the mail-in votes went to Brad Schneider. That's a little odd. And then as my race goes on, I literally had people calling from California to New York, literally coast to coast, asking me, Joe, what's going on with your race? My race stopped for an hour. The governor's race, all the other races were settled. Other races kept calculating and tabulating, but my race stopped. When I called Robin Oconner, and I have a text from her, anything I'm telling you, I have proof of. Spoke to Robin Oconner, and she said, Joe, your flash drive went down. It had to be replaced. Oh, is that right? So Brad Schneider spent $5 million against me to show up with 38% of the vote. Not happening. I resonated with everybody out there. The people like me. The reality is they cheat. And until that gets solved in Illinois, we're not going to have a different outcome. That's the bottom line.
Joe, all I know is I've heard that same thing too. And I did the mail-in ballot myself, and I went through the process, and I liked the follow through in the process. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Doesn't mean things can't happen behind the scene, but I wanted to try it, and very convenient because look, Republicans aren't passionate their jobs aren't on the line like the Democrats are. So they're not going to go out in a thunderstorm, to vote. So to register online, if you're a Republican, very easy to do. In fact, I'll put the link here, and you do it online. They send it to you, and you just drop it off in the mailbox. Very easy process. Maybe if we make it easier for people to participate and vote, easier for people to understand what the hell is going on. Because look, Joe, we had Keith on, Rick and Joe pointing fingers at you. Now you're re-pointing the fingers, and we got to have something where everybody can come together, and whether it's a Gorton set or online, and say, look, in order for us
no, in person, let them be uncomfortable in front of God and everybody. That's what I want.
Okay, all right.
It's got to, you're facing an individual in a debate is part of the process.
Yeah.
So you could see if they break down there. You have to do the face-off. You can't
all right. I'll work on it. That League of Women voter thing, that's not a debate. I don't know what the hell that is. That's like rice pudding. That's like Jello.
Well, Brad Schneider wouldn't debate me. I don't know if you're aware, but he wouldn't debate me. Only in his the Jewish Coalition of the North Shore, they decided they had 9 synagogues. And thank God somebody said, let's hear this guy's voice. And it was a rabbi from this coalition.
Yeah.
So we went there, as I said, and it was just so well received. That was the first time I felt like I was kind of breaking through. But outside of that, I put out a press release telling the League of Women Voters and Mano a Mano, which is a Hispanic coalition here, to make betterments in Lake County, and I'm sure others. But I said, listen, he's in the League of Women Voters, and the woman that runs Lake County League of Women Voters, I can't remember her name, but she totally agreed with me. I said, listen, if he won't sit down and debate me here, do you really think he's going to Washington to fight for you behind the scenes? Absolutely not happening. So you have to bring these people where they have to be accountable face to face. Let's see, what kind of strength and muster they have.
I'd be interested to see getting something live together. I hear it. It's more impressive. It's also harder to do. It's also easier to delay. I'll throw out a challenge here. You and Dan Rogers on this show.
Oh. That's all we need. That's a great beginning.
We'll start there online. Dan Rogers.
I put the press release out. I put the press release out. And, the one thing I didn't do, I just put it out on. And what about all these porn videos that these men are loving? What about all that? You think that they don't like me? Well, what's wrong with it is when you make your enemy aware that you're looking at it online. That's what's wrong with it. So he's over here liking all these Chinese bots. It's like Chinese bots. They're fake photos of women. He's literally like a chronicling fan of these pages. So I posted it all online. Said, yeah, he's too busy. Same thing with Richard Porter. Go look and where I tagged Tom DeVore and his girlfriend. I mean, just weird guys out there. And then I don't want to be aligned with them. I hate to say it, there's perverts right here in Lake County that are touching women. They won't have anything to do with our party anymore because of these weird men. It's just, you don't realize how awful it is until you actually get involved. And then people are looking at me like, oh, I'm the bad guy.
Well, like I said, Joe,
I'm just trying to help.
only 10% know what's going on. And that 10% are broadcasting to, the other 90%. And it's, is Joe right? Is Dan right? Is Keith right? I don't know. Well, I'm just going to go vote for the Democrat.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What has anyone said about me that's been true?
You're colorful.
Nothing wrong there.
Well, that's what I said. Define colorful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe I'm too Mediterranean looking for Keith Brin. I don't know.
Who wants a bland steak?
Yeah. I call it milk toast. They're like these milk toasts, and they're like slapping each other on the back, like, congratulating one another instead of actually doing something. But the reality is this. If you notice, it's all empty rhetoric. Oh, I don't like them. But there's no substance behind why.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to drill down, because I think for us to be able to win, when I say us, the moderate, the Republican, the R, everybody, we have to be firing in all cylinders. We can't be fragmented like this because you can't win a war being fragmented. You know, you need everybody passionate to have somebody to win, whoever it is, you or whatever.
Well, I'll tell you this. You said it very diplomatically earlier.
I did.
Okay. I always say I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a human first. I don't just go along. It's surprising to me how these people will just follow because it's a Republican policy or it's a Republican that's running. I'm not following a dirty Republican, just like I wouldn't follow a dirty or a corrupt Democrat. Yeah. But if I found a Democrat that was more authentic and character driven, et cetera, and moral, I'm voting for the Democrat over the Republican. I'm a candidate specific individual, not a party person. You know, so I applaud you for you said about Vega and Holly Kim. Hey, if they're out there doing the right thing, and I met a lot of those Democrats, especially like state reps, et cetera, they're out there really trying to fight and do something, and they're passionate. And I always say, at least they're fighting for something.
Yeah.
You know, agree or not, at least they're fighting. They're getting behind. There's a coalescing behind their candidate, and they all fight for the same thing. Out here, it's you better have an interest, otherwise we won't help.
Well, Joe, I think the commonality is, you know, if you grow up in the streets, whatever it's Cicero, Berwyn, Chicago, all right, there's a different interaction because you have to work with people to be protected. You have to work with people to move something forward. And unless you grow up in the streets, you kind of don't get that, or you get it later in life. And I think that's a difference between establishments and not, I don't know, that's just Pete Jansons saying it. But like I said, we brought you on after Keith. I'm going to try to get Schneider on, and, you know, I talk smack on him, and I'm going to see if he wants to, you know, respond to that, because being from the streets, you know, the only way you know how somebody is, you got to look them in the eye, have a conversation, you make a judgment, not read a headline and, you know, make a judgment. So that's, you know, be an independent thinker. Joe, I think you're very independent. I like that about you.
Thank you. I am independent. Running as a Republican with the true Republican values. And thank you again for having me on.
Absolutely.
Anybody could engage me if anybody has any issue or wants proof or evidence of what I've said, or just wants to challenge something I've said. They can reach out to my campaign. I'm very flexible and approachable, and I'm willing to engage.
Well, we'll put it up, and we'll have the comments. The comments will be turned on. Pete, you suck. Joe, you suck. I get it. No problem. We'll leave it up.
But it'll be interesting. You know, like your partner, you know, and they're all connected too. This is cronyism. You know, they support one another. They do business together. So Joe doesn't, so they have to go for that guy. I get it. But the reality is, put all that collateral interest aside. Let's get the community pushed forward first, and then worry about your own self-interest. So that's where I stand.
Well, don't worry, Joe, because the next show with Joe and Rick coming on, they're gonna have both barrels blazing.
Yeah, you should have me on.
It's
easy to say it behind the scenes where there's, you know, it's just empty rhetoric, absent substance. When you actually have to be accountable to what you say, then it's a different story. And that's when I win people over like crazy.
Well, I will do that, and I also think you and Dan Rogers that could be a pay-per-view.
Yeah, well, that's just so scummy. Let me say this. The reason why it is, it's true. For him to use that word when, first of all, it's so disparaging, number one. 1 in 700 kids born today are born with Down syndrome. 1 in 100 are born with some form of autism. So for a leader of our party to go out there and co-sign a Democrat narrative as to how elitist and dispassionate we are and insensitive to our community, you know, for him to do that, he should step down and he should be ashamed of himself.
Well, I can't wait till you tell it to him yourself, but we'll put
I did. He blocked me, so I can't engage him anymore.
I guess I'll be blocked too. Joe Severino.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it so much.
District. Third time's a charm, man. Take care, buddy.
Hey, second time.
Well, third time you've been on the show.
Oh, yeah, the third time. Oh, I thought you meant running for Congress.
Oh, right, second time running. Yeah, the third time.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you so much.
You're gonna win this time.
I enjoyed it.
All right, buddy. Bye.
Take care now.
The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Forest Bluff Real Estate Team serves Illinois, Wisconsin, Lake Forest, and Lake Bluff. John Josephitis, Laura Lee Van Fleet, and of course Michelle Parnell. Get a free market analysis now at forestbluffrealestate.com. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Havey Communications has been helping first responders arrive safely since 1983. It's owned by Lake Forest's own Mike Havey. Check them out at haveycommunications.com. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters: Costa, Lance, Otto, RDM, John C., and Helen. Shout out to the Lake Forest Breakfast Group, Broad Stop and Captain Mike's in Kenosha, the Greentown Tavern, and the Frolic Lounge in Waukegan.